Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second webinar of the WEkEO DIAS, where we'll be showing you how to get started with WEkEO. Today, what we'll be introducing you to is the platform to give you an insight on the data catalog, the data that you can access, the IT infrastructure that you will need to work with the data, any of the tools available to process imagery, to process geospatial data, and what else you can use the WEkEO DIAS and our WEkEO user support for. So today we have a lineup of speakers that will guide you through this event. Who do we have here today? So we'll have Haley Evers-King from UMETSAT. She works as a marine applications expert, and she has a background in marine user engagement and training with a particular focus on Copernicus and the Sentinel-3 and Sentinel-6 missions. She also has a PhD in the field of ocean optics and is an expert on many marine Earth observation applications. Secondly, we have Fabrice Messal from Mercator Océan International. After 6 years of developing partnerships and projects in the frame of the Mercator Océan outreach activities, he's currently in charge of training activities for the Copernicus Marine Environment Monitoring Service. He has a background in science and applications and numerical imagery, and has professional experience in visualization software development and scientific mediation. Then we also have Amin El Amarani, who is a satellite imagery expert of the WEkEO user support. He's specialized in technical issues, dealing daily with user issues. So one of your contact points if you have any problems working with the WEkEO DIAS. And then I'm Anne-Catherine. I have a background in Earth observation. I've been working on Copernicus user uptake activities since 2016, and I am part of the WEkEO user support team as well. What's on the agenda today? After this brief welcome, Haley will introduce you to the WEkEO DIAS and what the DIAS is. I will then guide you through what data are on offer on the WEkEO DIAS. And Fabrice will take over from me and show you a live demo of the WEkEO website and any of the plans that you can subscribe to work with the WEkEO DIAS. Amin will introduce you further on to the IT infrastructure, so virtual machines, the Jupyter Lab, any cloud computing that you may need. And then he will also finish up with showing you what the user support will be able to offer you as one of our potential new or existing users. We will close up with a Q&A. And for the Q&A, I just wanted to guide you through some housekeeping before we get started. So yeah, you have a chat in the teleconference window in front of you. If you want to ask questions, there's also a question mark present so that we can see that this is a question rather than a comment. And at the end, during the Q&A session, so the moderator will choose which questions to answer during this session. It might be that we're not able to answer all of the questions because, of course, we would like to finish up at 12:15. But rest assured that if you have any questions that aren't answered during this session, we are happy to answer them afterwards or distribute any of the answers through a shared document. So, for instance, when your question gets selected, when you ask a question and it gets selected, this is how it will show up at the end during the Q&A session. So we all see which question is being dealt with at the moment. And of course, if you have any questions that you may not have thought of during the session, or you're starting to try out the WEkEO DIAS and some questions come up, we're always happy to help you through our Twitter account at WEkEO DIAS, or our service desk email address, support@wekeo.eu. Haley, I'm giving the floor to you to show what the WEkEO DIAS is about.
Thanks very much, Anne-Katrine, and good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you today. As Anne-Katrine very kindly said, I'm Haley from UMETSAT. Most of what you'll see me or come across me doing relates to user support and training activities for Copernicus marine data, particularly around Sentinel-3 and 6, which are the missions that we operate at UMETSAT. But I'm also involved quite a lot across the WEkEO DIAS team on various different bits and pieces. And so today it's my pleasure to give you a bit of an introduction to both this webinar and the system or platform as a whole. I'll touch on various different aspects, unfortunately not in much detail, but that's what this whole webinar series is for. So you'll learn a little bit more today about the infrastructure and getting started on the system. And in the follow-on webinars in this series, you'll learn much, much more about the details of some of the aspects I'll talk about today. So let's get started. So to give you a bit of background, WEkEO is one of several of these DIAS systems. You'll hear this word used. It stands for Data Information and Access Services. And this was part of the European Commission's Copernicus program. The idea is to have these platforms where you can access both the data that comes through the Copernicus program and various different types of infrastructure in terms of computing resources that you can use to work with that data. And the WEkEO DIAS in particular is a partnership between UMETSAT, ECMWF, the European Environment Agency, and Mercator Ocean International, where we are joining all the different experiences and skills we have as a group of organizations to build WEkEO, to try and minimize problems for users and capitalize on the different types of feedback that we can get to make something that really works for our users to get to the data that we need. So you'll hear people from all these different organizations, or you'll come across us when you meet us in the WEkEO ecosystem. As I said, so we have partnerships across these different organizations, all have various responsibilities within the Copernicus program already, from operating the satellites to producing data into the Copernicus services. As such, we have access to all of the Copernicus data, as do all of you publicly. And the WEkEO system is no exception in that it aims to have as much of the Copernicus data available at all times to the users as possible. And this includes both the satellite data that comes from the Sentinel series, as well as the data that comes from the downstream Copernicus services that uses these satellite data, but also adds in other products such as models, in situ data, to give a much more rounded picture on our Earth system. So that's the data. And then WEkEO is also a system which involves infrastructure and support. And that's part of what you'll learn about today. So we have infrastructure. I won't say too much about that. I'll leave that up to my colleagues. We have tools that allow you to use data within that infrastructure. And then we have a whole range of different user support facilities that allow you to both ask questions of us, for us to provide information, inspiration, ideas out there to a community who may want to access the data, and also then to help promote things. So we're working on things like a marketplace to help share what our users in WEkEO are doing with the data with the wider community around the world. So that's WEkEO in a nutshell. So one of the key things that it offers is a single point of access to all Copernicus data. If you've worked with the data already, you'll know you can get it from various different sources depending on who is producing the data. You can get data from us directly at UMETSAT. You can get data from our colleagues at Mercator Ocean as well, if the marine side is what you're interested in. And this is much broader, of course, when we move outside the marine domain. But through WEkEO, you're able to access all of this data through one place. So through one website, through a viewer, through a data access system, which we'll hear more about later. The second thing that WEkEO offers is cloud-based hosted processing and tools. So this includes different environments such as the Jupyter Lab, virtual machines. Again, you'll hear more about those from Amin in this webinar. And this allows you to start working with the data for your own purposes. And there's a wide range of different options when it comes to the virtual environment tools. And the third sort of major asset that we have here is access to a huge amount of expertise when it comes to user support. Because of the diverse range of expertise that we have in the partnerships, you can get access to expert information about the marine environment, about the specific data that comes from Sentinel-3, about climate, about atmosphere, and about all the other different data sets that are available throughout Copernicus. So we really have quite a broad range of expertise accessible through our user support team. The data that we provide through WEkEO is, in most cases here, not a copy. So what we've developed is a system that allows you, the user, to access data as directly as possible from the sources that it is provided from. So, for example, if you access data through WEkEO for Sentinel-3, your access will be routed through EUMETSAT so that you are accessing the data that comes directly from us, rather than it being a copy and perhaps maybe being not quite up to date, for example, or not having relevant metadata. So we have that direct connection between where you access the data from and where the data is actually provided at source. We're able to provide this expert user support, as I mentioned before, and this applies not just to the satellite data, but all the data across the services. And in terms of accessing the data, as I mentioned before, this is a single point of access, and it works through what we call our harmonized data access system. So this is a REST-based protocol, if you're familiar with sort of API, application programming interface terminology. And this allows you to access this whole range of data through a very sort of standardized set of protocols. So regardless of what data you're accessing, you can use the same kind of commands in a programmatic way. We do a lot of training on how to do this. You'll see some examples coming up with how this works in our viewer system, and later on in both this webinar and future ones about how you can access data programmatically through things like using the Python programming language. But there's a lot of flexibility built into this API architecture so that you can fit it to your purposes to access all the different data. Who are our users? Really, WEkEO is open to pretty much everybody. We have institutional level users, so people who are part of member state organizations at the European level, at the national level, who are policymakers who are looking to access data to make decisions, and various regional, national, international agencies that fill these kind of governance-based roles. We have users in the private sector, so these are private companies, and they range from very large corporations through down to smaller, medium-sized enterprises and startups. We do a lot of work in that regard on things like hackathons to help people who are coming up with new business ideas to use the data. And we also support research and civil society. So the data appeals to a lot of environmental scientists because it's able to provide a huge amount of data and information on the Earth system that they study. We work with Horizon 2020 projects, so the European research programs, as well as with the general public. Anybody can get involved and get interested in working with the data, and non-governmental organizations and foundations. And that's actually all from me today. So this is just a quick interview to welcome you to, a quick presentation to welcome you to this webinar. And I'd like then to hand back to Anne-Catherine for our next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Haley. I believe the next speaker is myself. So I'll be showing you a little bit more in detail what the Data Catalogue offers to you. As Haley already mentioned, so the WEkEO DIAS, the strength of a DIAS is that it gathers all Copernicus data in one place. So it's one single data access point, and then you have the APIs to really work with all of the data simultaneously, rather than connecting to different data access portals with different access mechanisms. That's part of what I will show you also a little bit later, which data we're talking about then. And in addition to having a single data access point, just having the tools and the cloud computing power available next to these data allows you to really extract the most out of the information and the data that is available. And of course, because we are WEkEO is built by EUMETSAT, ECMWF, and Mercator, who are leading some of the satellite data and the information, the products that are built within the Copernicus program, they also have a really good experience and knowledge about the data and information available. So our user support is very knowledgeable and always happy to help you. So one of the features of WEkEO, of the WEkEO DIAS in particular, is that it doesn't copy the data from the different Copernicus data access portals. It provides a link to all of those different data access portals, making sure that you have all of the data available whenever they start being available at EUMETSAT, so at the single data access portals, and there's no time lag or any delay or any mistakes or in copying the data. So to show you which data are then available. As I mentioned already, so WEkEO is a partnership between Mercator, ICMWF, the European Environment Agency, and EUMETSAT. And they already offer quite a bit of the Copernicus data and information. So Mercator is responsible for the Copernicus Marine Environment Monitoring Service, ICMWF for the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service and the Climate Change Service, EEA for the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service, and EUMETSAT distributes all of the Sentinel-3 Marine, and then soon also Sentinel-6 and Sentinel-4 satellite imagery. And at the same time, you will also have access to the satellite imagery distributed by ESA through the Copernicus Open Access Hub, which is Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, the Sentinel-3 land data, and the Sentinel-5P data. So really a very broad set of or range of Copernicus data and information that you can access through the WEkEO DIAS. So about the Copernicus Marine Environment Monitoring Service, what kind of data can you expect to see? If you're a little bit familiar with the Copernicus Marine Environment Service, you might have seen, so they have three broad families. You know, an ocean, there are many different parameters that can be measured, and to cluster these a little bit, you have the blue ocean, so anything ranging from physical parameters like temperature, salinity, waves and currents, and sea level. You have the green ocean, which measures productivity of the oceans and things that might influence this productivity, like acidity, turbidity, nutrients, and then other living resources. And the white ocean, which then is then of course related to sea ice information. These data cover really the entire globe. So there are data sets available for the whole globe, but then also more detailed data sets for all of the European seas. And not only that, so you have all of the past information, data going back several years. You have the present information. As soon as the data sets get updated, they are available on the WEkEO DIAS, and forecasts as well that are calculated through models. To really go into detail of what these data are. So you have over 130 data sets available from 3 different sources, depending on what you need. So you have the satellite data themselves at higher levels than what you can get through, for example, EUMETSAT or ESA, level 3 and level 4, which for the different seas calculate physical characteristics, ocean color, sea ice, information that can be derived directly from the satellite images themselves. At the global level, so when combining this with in situ data, at a global level, you can also extract some physical parameters. And then finally, a model will combine all of these different sources with modeling power to give both analysis and forecasts for more advanced parameters. We're talking here about the waves product, biogeochemical parameters, more physical parameters, both for the past and reanalyzing data for the past in case that that models are being updated, but also forecasting these parameters for the near future. Second up is the data and information coming from ECMWF, the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service and Climate Change Service. In terms of the Atmosphere Monitoring Service, what you will find in WEkEO is both the regional European products, which are air quality analyses and forecasts, and in addition, doing reanalyses, because a lot of these data are based on models, reanalyses whenever a better model becomes available. Extending a little bit broader are all of the global products, again with analyses and forecasts of air quality. Any supplementary products that can help you that are parameters related to the atmosphere. For example, solar radiation, for if you want to measure how much sunshine you will get, for example, for building a solar farm. Greenhouse gas flux inversions, climate forcings, any data that can help you really extend your product or go into a deeper analysis. And then, of course, emissions products which contribute to air quality, anthropogenic emissions, fires, forest fires, any natural emissions that influence or impact air quality. And from the climate change service, the data that are available are the essential climate variables that are really the basis for many of the climate change reports, for continuously and consistently measuring climate change. Reanalysis of climate data from the past, both at a global and a regional level. And projections towards the future based on a variety of models, of recognized models. Then we're switching to the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service. So we've spoken about marine, about the air around us, and now the land. So the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service has three different components. You have the global component, pan-European component, and the local component. And in addition to that, you also have imagery and reference data available from the service itself. So the global component, as quite obvious, shows you an overview of land cover, the land surface at a global level. Related, so you find parameters related to vegetation, energy, the energy balance, water, the cryosphere, and any hotspot information. The pan-European and the local components go a little bit more into detail and provide a higher resolution over Europe. The pan-European gives you a wall-to-wall coverage of Europe, while the local component really focuses on specific areas like urban areas, riparian zones, and provide you land use and land cover in those specific areas. And then in terms of imagery and reference data, you might think, why would I get imagery from here while I can get it from the satellites directly? So the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service distributes a mosaic, a European-wide mosaic of VHR imagery that is used and also as input for the production of their various information products. But as well, for any analysis that you want to do on land, and a DEM, digital elevation model that covers the entire Europe, and some information about river basins and the river network within Europe. So going a little bit deeper into this, which are the available products. as I've mentioned already, so you have all of the land cover products, vegetation products at a global level, which look at leaf type, forest type, at a more local level, the land use and land cover in riparian zones, in urban areas, in Natura 2000 protected sites. Any biophysical parameters on land, for example, for cryosphere, not looking at sea ice, but looking at snow cover, lake ice, which is taken into the land component, river ice even, the energy balance at a global level, which is related to the surface albedo, and then, as I mentioned already, for imagery, the European image mosaic at higher and very high resolution, and at the global level, a global image mosaic of Sentinel-2 data, so at a 10-meter resolution. Then we'll skip to the Sentinel satellite imagery, so which you'll get from two different sources. EUMETSAT taking care of the marine part and ESA taking care of the land part. So EUMETSAT distributes the marine data, the Sentinel-3 marine data. What are those used for? You have, for example, altimetry measuring sea surface topography. You have ocean color data measuring the chlorophyll in the ocean, the suspended matter, turbidity, all of the data that is used for in the Copernicus Marine Environment Monitoring Service for creating level 3 and level 4 products. And the sea surface temperature based on Sentinel-3 sea and land surface temperature radiometer. These data are available in a rolling archive, meaning that you will find the most recent data directly available in the portfolio, and those are then slowly phased out when new data become available to manage the amount of data. Of course, all of the data sets will remain present in archive and are available for ordering. And then from ESA, more related to land, and then 5P to air quality. You also find the same data access type. So for Sentinel-1, the different products that are available on the Copernicus Open Access Hub, both in full archive, but also a rolling archive of the last 6 months, which if you need any older data, can always be ordered from the archive. Same goes for Sentinel-2, the optical high-resolution satellites from the Copernicus program. Sentinel-3 focusing on the land part, where the full archive is provided, and Sentinel-5P, which gives you information about some trace gases and pollutants in the atmosphere. You can find the full archive. And Sentinel-6, which was launched just a few weeks ago, will also be available soon in demonstration modes on the through ESA and of course through the WEkEO DIAS. So now I've shown you all of the data that you have available. How can you access them? Fabrice will show you a little bit more into detail, or show you the website in a moment. But on the WEkEO website, you can find a data tab where you can immediately in the map browse all of these different data. So you can filter on the types of data that you're looking for, the different products, the different sources of information, different areas of interest that you're interested in. So to really focus your search. And then once you've done your search, you will get thumbnails of all of the different data sets that match your requirements, that you can then either display on a map or work further with in the WEkEO DIAS. And I'll just show you how that looks like in in the map if you've selected some of these data. So you have, for example, a range of Sentinel data that you're interested in, covering Europe, the Copernicus Marine Environment Service data, and the Copernicus Land Monitoring Service data. And these are just some examples of how you can start with viewing the data already before you start, before you work with them more into detail later. So I want to say thank you already, and if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And now we'll continue on with Fabrice, who will demonstrate the platform.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Anne-Catherine.
Hi.
So, yes, I'm pleased to be here with you today. And I propose you to have a tour on the website and to discover the main parts of the WEkEO platform. So let's start. I will share my screen. Okay, so I hope now you have my screen on your computer. So let's have a look to this web portal. So this is the home page of the WEkEO website. On this home page, you have the access to the main part through this button here to access the data, to register, and to have access to the user support and ask questions. You have also the video to discover the service. You can have access also to news and events we organize in the frame of the WEkEO service. Okay, so let's dive in the data to start. So I click here. And now we offer you this opportunity to discover the catalog through the dataset selector of the viewer. So in fact, you have this viewer, this tool. And if you want to add a layer, you have access to the catalog of the different datasets available on the WEkEO platform. So you have all the datasets here, and you can choose to filter all these results by service, by platform, by sensor, by area of interest, by variable, and to have access to the data the most relevant for you. This is very useful to have this kind of tool because thanks to that, you can have a preview of the data, and you can compare different data and choose the most relevant for your activity and regarding your needs. And it's also very useful because thanks to this tool, you can access directly to the file, to the data, or the HDA. So this is the API to download the data, or to sorry, to access the data through, for example, Jupyter Notebooks. Okay. So this is the viewer. You can play with the timeline, with the cursor of the timeline, to change the date. So, for example, I try to have this date. Okay. So the image is automatically refreshed, as you can see. And now let's have a look to the data. For example, I will try to to display, for example, Sentinel-2 data. This one. I have just to click Add to Map. I will choose the false color information. Okay, and I have to zoom because this is a big data, big images. So let's zoom out the Arcachon Bay in France, which is a beautiful place. I will hide the other layer. Okay. The information is coming, and you will see, thanks to the menu, I will have access to directly the information about the product. So it's this icon here to have information on the product, and the dataset ID, which is very important ID if you want to download the data through your program, your codes, etc., or through the HDA. You have access also to the metadata information in different formats, and the company or the institution who is in charge to provide these products. Okay. So, okay, now I'm just a beginner on WEkEO. I have access to this information, to this preview of the product. I'm very interested to download this product or to have access to this product. I can also define my area of interest. Okay, let's do that. So this is Arcachon Bay. I want to define my area of interest. And now I have the opportunity to subset and download directly the data. But if I click here, I have this information. I'm not registered, so I have to register. I have to sign in. I will show you later how simple it is to be registered to the Copernicus Marine Service. So now, okay, I'm logging here, FADMESAL, okay. And then I can copy all the information of my area of interest in this bounding box. Here, I can choose the date as a timeline, as in the timeline. Here, the same. I will take, okay, the 1st of October, processing level 1C. And now I can choose to have this API request, very useful for the HDA. You have just to copy this request and paste on your code, or request the data. So I can send the job. Okay, here the job is running. So beyond that, on the computer, they prepare my request, and now I can access to the file and I can order the file. And now, if I click here, I can download directly the file on my computer. It is here. Okay. So as you see, it's very simple. Let's back now on the website. So here, click Home. Okay. I'm not sure it was a good idea to launch the downloading of my data now, but anyway, let's continue. So, as I said, if you want to download the data of access to the API request, you have to be registered to the service. So it's very easy. You click here on the menu, register, and the form you have to be registered is very simple. You see, you have just to enter your email address, your username, first name, last name, your country, your organization, and you have to choose your plan. As you saw in the previous presentation, we have two different kinds of plans: the free plan, the essential plan, and the different pay plans. So this is at the moment you can choose which plan you want, and don't worry, because you have free trial for the pay plans, the different pay plans, and you can switch, you can change the plans if your configuration is not enough for what you want to do with the WEkEO platform. So don't worry for that. You have to accept the WEkEO general term and conditions, the WEkEO privacy statement, and your account is automatically created, and you can access directly to the data and download the data in the moment. Okay, let's have a look quickly on the different offer of WEkEO. So as I said, we have a free essential plan here and the advanced plan, which is a pay plan here. So the advanced plan is the same configuration, the same offer than the essential plan, plus virtual machines, access to virtual machines, host processing environments, processing tools, etc. And we have different plans with different t-shirt size offer, and it's depending how many virtual CPUs you need, how many RAM you need, what kind of storage you need, if you need block storage, file storage, or object storage, depending your kind of activity or what you want to do with the data. If you need different IPs, if you have collaborators with you and you need just one account for your company with and you share this account with different IPs, you can have access to a load balancer. This is very useful to distribute to efficiently distribute the traffic on your server and your CPUs. And as you see, you have trial period on the first virtual processing environment size to test and to see if this configuration is enough for you or not. Okay, so it's very easy. And last point of my demo and my presentation, the support. So the support is always available for you, and to answer your question, you can contact directly the user support with this email address, or by completing this this form and send the user support your question and your comments. So as you see, it's very simple, and I hope I was clear. So that's fine for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fabrice. Indeed, a simple interface with a lot of possibilities. We'll go a little bit more deeper into the IT infrastructure, and I see that a lot of questions are coming in the chat. And rest assured, either we're answering in the chat or we'll answer after this presentation. But I now invite Amin to give a presentation on what tools and what IT infrastructure you can find on the WEkEO DIAS.
Thank you, Anne-Catherine. I hope that you can all hear me.
Yes.
Okay, so I will share my screen. And so here it is. So my name is Amin El-Amrani, and I am part of the user support team. I will give you an overlook on the IT infrastructure offered by WEkEO. So as was said by Fabrice, to use WEkEO under the best conditions, you have to register using this button here. You have to enter your information, and the registration procedure was described by Fabrice. The essential subscription plan is free of charge, and it allows access to the Jupyter Hub that I will present, and also to the support. And if you want to have the virtual machine access, you will have to switch to the advanced plan, which has a trial period associated to it, but I will get to this afterwards. So I will sign in to my own account here. That's what happens when you are registered. You can just sign in using your username and password. And then I will click the dashboard on the upper banner of the website. Then the Jupyter Hub, which will be the first part of the IT infrastructure that I will present. So I advise you to use the expert mode because you will have more resources. And if you want to have any kind of processings done, it's better to use the expert mode because you have some more CPU and memory. Click the start button here. So I'll wait for it to charge a little bit and tell you a bit about Jupyter Hub. So it's an open source web app that you can use to create and share documents that contain live code, equations, visualizations, and text. It is a tool that is very well documented. You can look it up on Google, and it's a very useful tool, as I will try to show you a little bit here. So this is the interface that you will get at first, and you can start by opening a blank notebook by clicking here. So once you click here, you will get to the blank notebook, and as you can see, there is a the document is made out of cells, if we can say it like that. A cell being an input text field. So you can choose here whether the cell is a you can choose the cells type. It can be code, markdown, or raw. If you choose code, it's just as if it was a Python interpreter. So you can write anything that you will do on a Python interpreter. Once you click the play button here, it will work. The cell can also be a markdown. Markdown being it's like a syntax that allows you to write some stylish text, if we can say. You can inline some HTML on it also. So here I used some HTML coupled to Markdown. If I click the play button, so it can show a nice title like this. So you can use colors and various stuff on the text. And if it is just raw, it would be just a normal text here. And by clicking play, you will get also the same thing. So what is really nice about this Jupyter Notebook is the fact that you can really put pieces of code, Python code on it, and you can even plot stuff on it. So here is I'm using the matplotlib library, and if I click the play button, I will have something like that. So you can add these kind of things onto your Jupyter Notebook file, and then you can export it as a PDF. So it gives some cool documents, if I can say. So I will show you some already made documents. That's what you will be actually working on. We don't start from blank documents, but we use documents that are already made. And the first one I would advise you to start from would be this Welcome to WEkEO Jupyter Lab documents. So if I click on it, it will open. And so I really advise you to read this document. It's an easy reading document and very synthetic. It contains all the information you need to know about it. And it will show you some hints and tips also about how to use the resources of the Jupyter Hub, because it is not actually made for manipulating very large files or downloading very huge files, because the storage block is limited. But if you are willing to do some tests and to understand pieces of code, it is ideal. So I really advise you to read this document, and it's very quick. So the second document that I will advise you to read will be the one in the WEkEO HDA folder, and it's called the WEkEO Harmonized Data Access API. This one is also very important because it shows you the link between WEkEO and the Jupyter Hub that is implemented in it. You will have some pieces of code that you can execute directly as if you were in a Python interpreter by clicking the play button here. And you will have to follow the steps that are shown here. It was already shown in the webinar #1 on how to import the HDA an HDA request in here. And if you follow all the steps here by entering your username and password, there's a tricky part about the dataset ID that you need to enter. There is also this part here, this variable with the data. You will have to copy the API request that you get from the HDA that was just presented by Fabrice. You get the piece of code, which is the REST code, and put it into the data variable here. And once you've done all the steps, at the end, you will be able to download your Copernicus data file directly into your Jupyter Notebook environment. And you can use it afterwards with Python to manipulate it, to use this data to create, to plot graphs. And when you are done with this, you can just export your document as a PDF and use it on some other stuff. So that's what makes the power of the Jupyter Hub environment. So as I was saying, if you're willing to manipulate some larger files and have more CPU, you have to consider switching to one of our advanced plans, which offers broader resources. And this introduces us to the other main IT resource that we have on WEkEO, which is the virtual machines. So the virtual machines offer a significant resources directly accessible through your physical computer in a Linux command line. And to benefit from this computer resources, you have to switch to the advanced plan. To switch to the advanced plan, you have to click the upgrade plan here on the dashboard. And once you click the upgrade plan, you can choose the plan size. The plan size being basically a configuration of the virtual machine that you want to have. So as you can see here in this table, you have many configurations, different configurations that are proposed. And they include CPU, memory, GPU, sometimes also storage capacity. And as was shown by Fabrice in the pricing section, there is a trial period that is associated to each plan size. But know that this trial periods are shown just for your information, and they can be extended if justified by the user support. You just have to send us a message, and we will look into it. Afterwards, it's a paying service, but know that there is no commercial gain out of it. It's just to cover the costs of providing these virtual machines. You get to know if none of these configurations are suitable for you. You should consider switching to what we call a custom plan. And there will be a sales manager that will contact you by email to suggest a plan and a price. So by custom plan, I mean, for example, if you need some more CPU, less memory, maybe more block storage, or if you want a configuration that suits you well, where you will have to call the custom plan and contact the sales manager. So once you have this request done, the support will provide you with the resources. But you need to know that the instance creation is not automatic. I mean, to create a virtual machine in instance, you will have to follow the guides that we have on the website. So you click the guides button here, and you have in virtual machine a series of articles that you need to follow carefully, and this will allow you to do all the steps to create your instance. So creating security rules, assigning them to security groups, key pairs, which is a secure way to get to your instance, creating a volume or block storage based on the cloud resources. And once you have done all this, or maybe just some of these steps, you will have your instance that is created, which is like a workstation, like a laptop that you can have access to through SSH, and just take profits of these resources directly from your computer. So once you have done this instance creation, if you go back to your dashboard and click virtual machines, you will have this Morpheus interface that is shown. So it's a popular interface widely used across cloud providers. It's also well documented on the internet. So here, if I go on instances, I can see my virtual machine that is created here. If I click actions, then open console, I will have access directly to a Linux prompt that allows me to do my work. But know that we do not recommend to access it directly from Morpheus. It's better to access it through SSH. So you can have your command Linux prompt, or from a terminal emulator from Windows, like MobaXterm or PuTTY, maybe if you heard of it before. So I will show you this on the MobaXterm software, which is open source. So here is the MobaXterm software. You click sessions, SSH, you copy your public IP that you found on the Morpheus interface, the username that was created with this instance. I have already done it on mine, so I can have access to it like this. And then afterwards I can have access to it. So this is just a normal Linux prompt with direct access to the virtual machine. For example, I've installed here the QGIS software that you might know about, which is a viewer of geospatial data. So if I type QGIS here, you will have the QGIS application that will appear. And that's it. So you can install whatever software you need. You can do whatever you can do on your own computer, but directly on these virtual machines. And with the broad resources that are offered by WEkEO. So in the next webinar, I will get more technical on the use of these virtual machines and how to get the WEkEO data on them using the harmonized data access of WEkEO. So that's it for the virtual machine. I will now ask Anna Maria maybe to put these slides. Thank you. So I do a small segment on the user support also, because I am part of this user support team. This support team is composed of myself and a few colleagues on the CS group side, but we have access to some other experts on the field. We have a ticket management tool and a broad set of experts to answer questions and scientific support. So if you have any questions related to access to Copernicus data, HDA, if questions about infrastructures, the tools and applications as QGIS that I showed you it will be you have to send us a message. And so really do not hesitate to contact us, because we have this this very specific thing about the WEkEO DIAS, which is this broad set of experts. We can reach out to any expert on the field very quickly, very efficiently, using this ticket management tool. And we can respond to any question, even if it's very technical, even if it's very complex. For example, you have a question about Sentinel-2 data, special image, you don't know the answer, send us a question and we will reach out to the very well qualified expert that knows the answer and get the response to you very quickly. So to do that, as shown by Fabrice before, you click on the support button, then the email address support@wekeo.eu, support@wekeo.eu, and we will answer you very quickly. And so here I will show you just a small graph of the workflow that we use on the WEkEO tool. So there is a very efficient workflow that we made that allows us to reach quickly to the concerned experts. We have a knowledge database also that allows us to compile all the questions that already were asked before, so we are very quick. So really do not hesitate to send us a question. We are here for that. And so that's it. That's all from me. Thank you for your attention, and I hand over to Anne-Catherine.
Thank you, Amin. I'll very briefly give you a quick overview of what's next after this webinar before we head into the Q&A. And I'll be quick because I see you have a lot of questions. So this today was the second webinar of 12 webinars that we are planning to organize, well, between the beginning of December of this month and the end of June 2021. We'll be guiding you through a whole process of how can you get started with the WEkEO DIAS and what can you do with it. And both for beginners and experts, which I see in the chat, we have a range of potential users here today. So what we're starting with and with which this second webinar fits into is some generic webinars, which really give you an overview of what is the WEkEO DIAS, what can you do with it. And then we'll dive deeper into different thematics and then actually show you some examples of what it is that you can do for land, for marine, for a variety of topics. We'll be aiming at both at beginners and at experts so that you all get some very useful and practical information out of these webinars. And then finally, we'll close off with a webinar on business applications. So if you are developing a commercial application, how can you do this? This shows the dates of all of these different webinars. We will have one more generic webinar in the beginning of January, and then we'll move on to the thematic webinars. First, looking into thematics such as ocean color crop mapping, multi-temporal analysis, and air pollution, aimed at beginners. And we're hoping that by that time you're advanced enough to also participate in the advanced webinars later on in May and June. For the third webinar, you will get an invitation from us right after this webinar closes. And we hope to see you there, of course. I just wanted to point out as well that we also have a few training sessions coming up, or that we have training sessions provided by WEkEO user support. So some of them have already been given. Back in from July to and with one more coming up in January. And then we also have debriefing sessions, because what you will be learning in those trainings, you can apply yourself, you can test it out, try it out, and then get back later on to see how you've been faring and what else needs to be resolved. So I just want to point out, so we have one more training coming up on land on the 21st of January 2021. And also for this one, you will get an invitation. So we hope to see you there. It will be a little bit longer than this usual webinar to really give you some more in-depth view of what you can do on WEkEO with land data products. So thank you very much all for your attention, and let's move on to the questions. A lot of the questions have been answered in the chat already. Thank you very much, Haley, Fabrice, for looking at those questions. But we'll repeat some of them just to make sure that everyone got them. So, do WEkEO users need to be meteorological at heart? Scientists in order to do some interesting analysis? Can you address some examples of AI applications with WEkEO data? Matteo, very interesting question indeed. And so the data that you can find, there are such a large variety that it's difficult to give a specific example. But that also means that you don't have to be a meteorologist to use WEkEO. You can work in earth science, you can work in AI, you can work in GIS, you can work on a variety of thematics. Because all of the data are serve to provide information or provide answers to a lot of environmental questions. But you can, of course, use AI as a tool to develop an application. You have GPUs available as part of the subscription plans to run the AI models. For instance, one of the challenges, or one of an AI example that's running, will be running soon, is a Earth observation for air quality challenge organized by the European Space Agency, called AI for EO, which will be used to develop applications or solutions based on AI and Earth observation data for air quality issues. And more, you might find more information on ai4eo.eu. Why is the WEkEO not containing all the Copernicus Climate Change Service datasets that are available on the Copernicus Climate Change Data Store? Haley, I believe you've answered it. I don't see you anymore in the chat. So if we don't have Haley to answer it, yeah, I just want to repeat the answer for so that everyone has seen it, but I don't find the answer right now in the chat. Thank you very much for attending this session. It will be recorded and it will be on the WEkEO YouTube after this event. No more. Okay. Any further questions? Do I understand the pricing policy correctly, that the Essential account has no processing tools available? I think Fabrice was the one who answered this question. Yeah, if Fabrice isn't here, so the answer to that was, with the Essential plan, you have access to a dashboard and access to the Jupyter Lab. So you do have some of the tools available to you. Could additional Python data analysis libraries be installed by the users? If not, which are already installed by default? I believe Haley answered that in the chat.
Amin?
Okay, so I will answer this question if it has not been done before. You can install some more Python libraries on your Jupyter Notebook by using the the terminal prompt that is also accessible through Jupyter, and you will be able to use it as any other Linux prompt, and just download the Python library that you want on your Jupyter notebook. So it works.
Thank you, Amin. Any additional? Do you need Linux for the virtual machines, or is Windows okay? Amin, perhaps you can also answer this one.
Yes. So as I showed you before, if you have Linux, you can have access through the SSH command directly with your IP. Once you have your public IP of the instance that you created, you can just type SSH, your public IP, your key, and you will have access to the virtual machine. If you are on Windows, as I showed you, you can use the terminal emulator as WEkEO or PuTTY. PuTTY is an open source one that is very known. And by entering your public IP, your public key.
Oh, also, I mean, I believe we've lost you there.
You don't hear me?
Okay.
Do you still hear me?
Loud and clear.
No, I believe maybe it was on my side.
Okay, so
Yes.
no worry. So I was saying the on Windows it is possible also WEkEO or PuTTY, as I was saying. Thank you, Brice. You can have access by using the public IP and the key pair that you got from the Morpheus interface. You can have access from Windows, so don't worry. But it will be a Linux prompt that you will have access to, even from your Windows OS.
Thank you, Amin. Do we have any further questions? Okay, what tools can I use to analyze the data after downloading it? Amin, do you want to answer this?
So I can tell you for all the Copernicus data, because I don't know. You have many kinds of file types, so it depends on the product. But I can tell you, for example, on Sentinel-2, you can use the QGIS software that I showed in the presentation. That allows opening geospatial data as any band of the Sentinel-2 data. For the Sentinel-1 data, I guess that you can open it with within a software called Panoply. But you will find all this information on the website. You can look it up on the internet also if you don't know what the extension of the file is about. Some other files, they can just be opened by a text reader. Sometimes also if you have a table or you can open it with Excel, for example, or LibreOffice Calcul, these kind of things. So it depends on the type of the file. But for images, as in Sentinel-2, be sure that using QGIS or ArcGIS also, the paying version of it, it works also.
Thank you. We have one last question before we close for today. Is the Harmonized Data Access API free to use?
Yes, so the Harmonized Access is free to use as long as you have registered into WEkEO. You don't have to pay anything for this one. It's only the virtual machines and the resources that are paying, and even for them, you will have this. You will have the trial periods associated to it. But for HDI API, free.
Okay. Thank you very much. As mentioned, if there are any questions that were not answered, we will get back to you about them afterwards. You can also always reach out to the WEkEO user support through support@wekeo.eu. And I want to thank you all for being here today, for paying attention. I see that people from all over the world, from Brazil, Japan, South Africa have joined. So thank you very much. And we hope to see you the next time.